Hi everyone, Beth Pensabene here with Beachway Therapy Center, and we're here again to share a story with you for National Recovery Month. This is an important month for us because we like to share recovery that is happening in our community to inspire others. Today we have Tia from Missouri who'll be joining us live here on Facebook to share her story. You'll be very inspired to hear how well she's doing. This is a story of abuse and neglect and trauma, and somebody that has now been able to turn their life around. So let me go ahead and see if we can get her to join us. We'll give her another minute or so. Let me just give her a quick message. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here she is. She is joining us. Okay, I see we're trying to add her in. Thank you everybody for their patience. To give the chance for more people to join us live. There she is.
Sorry about
Hi.
that.
It's
Hi.
okay. Technology, you know, you never
Yeah,
you never really know how it's going to work until you get started.
right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We know that you're on your lunch break, so we really appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Yeah.
I was giving a little information about you. You're 10 months sober from Missouri.
hmm
Congratulations on picking up your 10-month chip. That's great
Thank
news.
you.
So I was sharing a little bit with our community about your history. You do come from a house of neglect and abuse,
hmm
which took a huge toll on you up until this day. Um, and you had struggled with alcohol and drugs in order to self-soothe. Can you tell our community, just give us an idea of what it felt like so somebody else watching could possibly relate to this?
Yeah. Just like about growing up.
Yes.
Yeah. So I grew up alone. My dad left when I was 4, and I
Tia, I'm
was left
sorry
with
to
my.
interrupt you. Can you just turn up your volume a little bit
Yeah.
for me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's see. Is that better?
That is. It's pretty good.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so my mother, when I was a kid, she was an alcoholic, and my dad left when I was 4, and my older siblings, they were much older than me, and so they left the home. They were in their 20s. Um, there's just a huge age gap, and so when my father left, my mother was married to him for 22 years when he left, and they had grown up together, and so she, like, I understand now, like, the how hard that would have been for her, but she turned to alcohol. And unfortunately, like, I was left at home alone for all through elementary school. um, she was supporting me. She worked at a factory. She was pretty uneducated, and so she was unable to bring in a lot of money, and then the money that she did bring in, went to her drinking. um, and like, I had to fend for myself. I was stealing food from school. The utilities would get shut off a lot. I remember just being cold. Like, I'm in therapy every week now, and we just were working the other day on those memories of being so cold that I could feel or see my breath in the house, and like just curled up on the couch, just unable to get warm. I was like a cold, like to my bones, and just remembering that, like cold is a trigger for me now. And knowing like winter's coming, like that's really rough. But the isolation, the lack of nurturing, the not having, my basic needs met of a safe shelter, food, and clothing, that it wasn't met for years. And my mother, like the shame behind that, like she was never able to take accountability, to say I'm sorry, to even admit these things happened. But my siblings, like they would call, back then it was called the welfare, but now it's called you know DFS, and they would report my mother, and she would hide me in the back, and yeah, that was they. I just remember curling up in the back, where she would hide me and just pray, please find me, please find me, please take me away. Like I knew that the environment I was in was not safe. Um, and yeah, so it was a lot of fear, a lot of these feelings of I don't deserve good. I'm any kind of need I had, it was I'm too much, because I can't ask for things. I'm too much, and that definitely has followed me into adulthood. That was a lot of things that I dealt with at Beachway.
I'm so sorry to hear that. People sometimes think when a child is abused, it has to be physical or emotional,
Sure.
but neglect can be just as harsh. And the fact that you were hungry and cold and had no love or support,
Right.
it was obviously a very difficult childhood for you that brought you into your, adult years. Can you tell us a little bit about your adult years and how things kind of progressed?
Yeah. So I was introduced to alcohol and drugs at 16, and um, I remember just having this craving of I cannot get enough of this. There's not enough here at this party, like kind of a panicky, what if I don't get enough? So from the very first time that I drank, like I felt that the allergy, that they call it. And then going into adulthood, like I became a police officer because I wanted to save all the kids, like that was like my goal. I wanted to be like, I felt like nobody protected me, and so I wanted to be the one to protect the kids. And so I got into law enforcement, and it wasn't the way that I thought it would be. I didn't have a lot of power, as much power as I thought I would, as far as like saving the children and stuff. And I was a sergeant over the child sex crimes division, and so all those types of cases, they would come filtered to me, and I later learned that I was re-traumatizing myself over and over and over, because there was some mild sexual abuse growing up, but it was just a lot. And so I learned as a police officer to repress even as a kid, I was repressing. But as a police officer, like I thought that I had this crazy, insane self-control, but that's not what it was. It was just repressing all these feelings. And then I was drinking very heavily at that time. I would miss my shifts because I was drunk the following day. Um, I never got in trouble for it, but it definitely affected my work. I Through my 20s, I turned to that, to help cope. And then all along thinking, man, I am so self-controlled. This person just died in front of me, and I don't cry. But it really took a toll on my neurological system, of through my childhood years and my adult years of suppressing. Um, After that, like I joined a church that was really abusive. It was a very controlling church, and coming from a background of trauma, I thought that the control was love. And I was like, finally, these people care about me. Like they're telling me what to do everywhere I go. They're invested in me. And so then there was a lot of religious abuse through there too. Um, And then when my mother passed away in 2020, June of 2020, and that's when things really got bad. Um, I learned about trauma bonds at Beachway, and my mother and I were trauma bonded. And when that was ripped away, I didn't know what to do. And it took more and more alcohol, more and more drugs, more and more pills. It just, I was losing my ability to repress my superpower, like this superpower of self control and not to cry and not to show any emotion. Like it just, I lost that. And the drugs and alcohol worked until they didn't. You know, like I it just took more and more, and I was getting more emotional, having more panic attacks. And my family, like my sisters, they were really awful during that time of my mother's passing, like the fighting going on. And I had my first full uncontrollable panic attack was when we were going through my mother's apartment and, sorting through her stuff. And then it was like happening constantly after that. So that's when things really, really took off.
And you hit rock bottom shortly after that, after your mom's passing. Can you tell, and you have children of your own,
Hmm.
and you're married. Can you tell us a little bit about what it took to take that first step when you hit rock bottom?
Yeah. Yeah. So I tried to seek out therapy after my mother died. But it was like 2 years later, like I was drinking and drugging every single day for 2 years trying to cope. I was hiding it, nobody knew, that I was drinking so heavily. I was really good at hiding it, and my husband didn't even know how bad it was, until I got to Beachway. Um, but when I went to therapy, we tried to do EMDR on this trauma that was coming up and these night terrors and all this, the PTSD, and all these symptoms were just getting out of control. I just couldn't, I just didn't have a grip on it anymore. And when we tried EMDR, which I continue to do today with my new therapist, but the EMDR therapist that I originally got, he didn't know, he wasn't, um, like he was doing his best, but I guess he just wasn't thoroughly trained on it. And so we went too hard, too fast, and all of these emotions, this trauma came up, and my body did not know how to ground. It did not know how to process, and so I had a neurological break, I guess you could say, to where like I was ticking. I was like doing these defensive, the posture ticks. It was like I was living in a constant panic attack. And he told us that I needed to go to inpatient, that there was nothing that he could do to help me. Um, and so it took like literally not being able to care for myself, for me to see the kind of help I needed. And initially, I thought I just needed mental health. Um, and I was in denial for a long time while I was at Beachway. I was there for 4 months, just under 4 months, and I didn't think I had an addiction problem. I just thought it was trauma and mental health. But it took, just literally not being able to function throughout my day, to actually say I need help.
So once you actually agreed to get help, I know you started there, and you even told me it took you 4 days to just kind of decompress,
Hmm.
and you were given that time to kind of get to the level where you could share what was going on with you. What kind of pieces of the puzzle happened to you that you started to feel better? Do you remember like moments where you were like, I feel like I can be accountable now? I feel like I can have a better relationship with my kids.
Hmm.
I feel like I have hope.
Yeah,
Do you remember moments like that?
absolutely. Like Beachway, I feel like Beachway gave me the childhood I never had. The nurturing, the patience, the care, the level of care. Um, the I was so sad to leave in the end. When I first got there, I was scared out of my mind. Like I didn't know. I thought from TV, I thought I would be strapped to a bed or something. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. But as time went on and they just were patient, they didn't force anything on me. They just sat with me. Like, my therapist, Laura, just sat with me. And through the episodes, like, I would have these episodes where I would revert back to like a 4 or 5 year old, and like I would talk like I was a little kid. And she would hold my hand, and she always had her nails did. And I remember one time she was sitting on my bed with me in the house, which is kind of unheard of. The therapists don't really go into the housing areas, but she did for me. I was just in a really bad mental place, and I thought I was 5. She asked me how old I was, and I was, you're doing this, and she held my hand, and I saw her fingers, and I would just touch her nails, and like a little girl. And there was no shame behind that. There was no like, oh, grow up, or like anything I would have got as a kid. And that, like, that moment is really special to me. I usually cry when I talk about it, but and then she walked me across the campus holding my hand, using her body to protect me. Like, I didn't need protecting, but I was just scared of everything. She would use her body to shield me when people would walk by, and feeling that nurturing, the protection, like, it was, I mean, I'm 42 years old, and it was the first time in my life that I ever had somebody else provide that for me. It wasn't me trying to be the superhero cop or anything like that. Like, it wasn't me taking care of myself. And just sitting in her office and being told, yeah, we can help you. Like, there is help there. And the groups, and like reading about these issues that I'm having, and seeing like other people are going through this too. Like, this is not just me. And as I've seen like other people getting better, and I've seen the progress, like the all the things like that they were doing with me, it just slowly started feeling like, okay, like, they know what they're doing, and I'm not going to get any different results if I don't do something different than I did in the past. And so yeah, like, those moments are so cherished for me. Of It really feels like I was a little kid, and my I feel like Beachway is like my childhood home. And like, I feel like I have like memories of going to the beach, and um, sitting with a nurturing figure, and like those things that every child is deserved, like, I got from Beachway.
That's beautiful. There's a lot of people I'm sure can relate to that, who wish they could have images like that as their childhood home. What's your life like now? Would you like to share with the community? As you're
Yeah.
at your full-time job right now?
I am, yeah. So I did um, everything that Detroit told me I did. I went through the trauma track. That was huge. Um, that was a really defining moment too, if I could share on that. Like, the trauma program was so helpful to help me to process those emotions throughout my body, because we learned that our body keeps a score. When we have trauma, that background alarm, it gets stored in our body. My superpower that I thought I have of repressing that, I wasn't making anything go away. I just had a storage in my body of all these traumatic moments. And they brought out this big box. It's an upholstered box, and they gave me a padded bat. And I read a letter to my mother, to her picture, um, telling her all my feelings about what had happened as a child, and even some as an adult. And after that, like, to get those emotions out, like, they taught me, like, doing something physical will get those out. And so I had my trauma therapist on one side, and my primary therapist on the other, and they were just supporting me as I was hitting this box. And something clicked, and I was just really going to town on this box. And then I felt like these emotions from my toes, like rising up through my body, and it scared me. And like I threw the bat and I tried to run out, and they were like, no, no, no. And it was just 40 years of emotions, repressed emotions, and just exploded out of me. And Laura, my therapist, like she held me on her chest, like she held my head on her chest, and she just held me. And looking down, like as shocked as you would be to look down and see your hands in blood or your arms bleeding, I looked down and I was shocked that I wasn't bleeding. Like, because the pain, the intensity was so much. Like, I couldn't believe I wasn't bleeding. Like, how could this be so painful and there's no blood? And they just were there, and they held me and comforted me and let me just get that shit out. And that was a defining moment in my recovery, because that's when the ticking stopped. um, they knew the tools to use to help me. And after that, like the ticking stopped, and I was able to really buckle down and work. Because before I was sitting in groups and and ticking, and somebody would say something that would set me off, and and now, after doing that work, and they knew how to help me in that, then I was really able to work on my addiction. And they were patient with that, because I was really convinced that I wasn't an addict. I said, can I just be a little bit of an addict? Like maybe a weekend addict. Um, but again, they were patient with that too. And now coming home, Beachway taught me to meet my kids where they're at. Like, it's okay that they have needs, like they're children. And I didn't, from the trauma that I had, like I didn't know what what's normal for a child. And they taught me that. And now, like, my little girl, she's 8, and she hugs me. And so when I first got home, she kept saying, Mom, why are you talking in that weird calm voice? And but they're getting used to the new calm me, because before I was very explosive. And they give me hugs all the time, and like I'm getting on the floor and playing with my kids, and we're playing Yahtzee and Uno. And I never did that before, because I didn't know that it was okay, really. I just didn't understand children. When they were toddlers, it was fun because it was just all physical, like, clothe them, feed them, and put them to sleep. But as they gotten older, like, they can think and reason and have different opinions than me. And I'm teaching them the tools that I learned at Beachway. Like, their teachers are so blown away the language that they're using, of it's okay to be mad, or I can't control others, but I can control myself. And we're still healing. My husband is in Al-Anon, and he's still healing. And like I said, I go to therapy every week, but we are on a healing path. And these generations of trauma cycles passed down from my family, like, whatever I can take on to process myself and not pass on to my kids, like, that's my goal. And so it's really great to just snuggle. We have snuggle fights, and, and that's what my kids call it. And
I
so
love that.
yeah, I'm able to just be so affectionate now.
And what a gift for them as well.
Yes, yeah. I saw before, in my family unit, I was taught that being empathetic, being emotional, being physically affectionate, like that was weak. And now I'm learning just how strong somebody has to be able to be so sensitive, like I am in this world, and I've come to embrace it. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that's my superpower now, of just being able to be an empath like that.
Well, you are an inspiration for sure, and your smile says it all. Is
Thank
there
you.
is there any last thing that you'd like to share with our community before we sign off?
Um, just I just want to thank Beachway, man. Like, I owe them my life and the livelihood of my family. Everybody who put a single minute into me, I'm not wasting that time. I'm doing everything that I can, um, doing everything within my power to stay better, to stay healthy. I don't want that time spent with me to be for naught, and I'm gonna keep fighting. And anybody out there who's hesitant, like, you're not gonna get any results unless you do any different results unless you do something different. And Beachway is better than winning the lottery. It's a gold mine of health and care and support. And if anybody is able to go, like, you won't regret it if you give yourself to it. Like, there's nothing that you could lose that, alcohol, drugs, or mental health issues aren't taking away. Like, just take the chance on yourself because you deserve it.
Well, thank you so much, Tia. Thanks for joining us. I hope
Thank you.
everybody's inspired by Tia's story today. And if you are following us on Instagram, we'll be over there in a few minutes. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.